Hello everyone and welcome back to the show. On today's show we're going to be breaking down the NHL playoffs and the big Stanley Cup victory for the Tampa Bay Lightning. First and foremost, a big congratulations to the Tampa Bay Lightning for winning the 2020 Stanley Cup Championship. And my goodness, what a year it's been. There's definitely been some ups and downs, some pauses, some restarts, some new formats, an NHL bubble, no fans. What more can we say? This has been a wild ride, and it's bittersweet that it's over. And again, just a huge congratulations to the Stanley Cup champions, the Tampa Bay Lightning, on their second Stanley Cup victory. Right off the bat, I think we're going to do a little bit of a breakdown as far as, the points scored and the scoring race through the entire playoffs. Some of the names that are still there after being eliminated earlier on. But right at the top, you have the two big scorers for the Lightning, and Nikita Kucherov and Brayden Point. Brayden Point has been incredible this season. We didn't know really what we were going to expect from him. We kind of wanted them all to, or everyone wanted him to take that next jump. And my goodness, did he ever. At times, he looked like one of the top 5 players in the league, let alone just a good centerman. And he finished the playoffs with 33 points and had a couple of games where he wasn't able to play. So if he had played in those, he probably would have even surpassed Kucherov for the number 1 spot. Kucherov did finish first with that 34 points. Number 1 in goals was Mr. Brayden Point, and Joe Pavelski finished the playoffs with 13. Palat and Hedman had 11 and 10 respectively. Bo Horvat with 10 and Nathan MacKinnon with 9. Both of those guys obviously eliminated in the second round. And as far as assists, we had Kucherov with 27. Nobody else even really within reach. Second place was Heiskanen with 20. And if you really look at the points breakdown, you'll have Kucherov 34, Point 33, Heiskanen with 26. And fourth place would be Nathan MacKinnon. And my goodness, what a player he's been. Leading the Colorado Avalanche, and every time he's on the ice, it's exciting to watch. I really think that Colorado is right on the cusp of making some big noise there in the Western Conference. And he's a huge reason why, and a huge asset. I said before in an earlier video that I believe he should have been one of the big names in the Hart Trophy race this year, more so than I think he was given credit for. Looking at scoring by defensemen, you had Heiskanen with 26, Hedman with 22, Klingberg with 21, and you really noticed it this entire series. All three of these guys had the ability to take over games and move the puck really well out of their zone, and that I think was huge. It's incredible to me how good Heiskanen is at such a young age. And speaking of young players too, you look at guys like Shea Theodore with 19 points, Quinn Hughes 16, Makar 15, even Sam Girard over in Colorado there with 10. Some real big names and some real good players there for being so young. But of course, with Victor Hedman and his 10 goals and his 22 points, he brought home the Conn Smythe Trophy, and in my opinion, just really the guy who held things together and was a proven leader for the Lightning, especially in Stamkos' absence. A couple of rookies there showing in the rookie scoring race was Guryanov led the way with 17. Obviously, he made the finals and played more games than these next few guys, but it's nice to see him be able to step up and play some big games and big minutes and big games too. I think he's going to be a real big piece for Dallas in the future. He's kind of been a nice surprise for them. And then Quinn Hughes with 16 points and Cale Makar with 15. I don't mean to keep harping on how good these guys are, but it's really incredible to watch those two go and play, and it's going to be fun to watch their comparisons throughout the years as well. With Cale Makar taking the Calder Trophy home this year, and again, well deserved on that. Some pretty big numbers by some goalies as well this offseason. Carey Price, 1.78 goals against average. Freddie Anderson with 1.84. Grubauer 1.87. You even got to see guys like Peter Mrazek 2.08. Robin Lehner with 1.99. Just big numbers by some guys that haven't really been given opportunities. And you look at a guy like Thatcher Demko, who had 0.64 in his games, and he had a 985 save percentage. And again, making some real interesting options for Vancouver this offseason. Joonas Korpisalo with a 941 save percentage. Carey Price 936. Just, again, big games, big players, and it's fun to see them stand out there. Robin Lehner, it seemed for a little while he would only win games if he shut out the opponents. As soon as you scored on him, it looked like he was going to lose a game. But he led the way with 4 shutouts in the playoffs. And Vasilevsky got his first one in the cup clinching game. So some differences there for sure. Going over the entire finals, though, it's I mentioned before, it seemed like Tampa Bay had a lot of the speed and a lot of the momentum going through, and the quality of the chances seemed to be the big difference. Dallas didn't seem to be as willing to shoot pucks from bad angles or from areas that you don't normally score, and they were struggling to get into the areas where you do normally try and score from. And so it when you have that combination of things, the numbers and shots especially can start to look a little bit skewed. If you do look at the possession numbers, Tampa Bay did come out with the edge on it, but it wasn't nearly as drastic as what it kind of seemed to be when you look at the shots through the game. And I think a big reason for that is just the stability with the Tampa Bay team. You had a lot of guys who have played and sacrificed for years and years, whereas the Dallas defense was maybe trying to activate a little bit more, trying to bring things up in the offensive game, and sometimes you just get caught that way. By no means do I think that Tampa Bay is a purely rush team, but when you have the skill that they have and you do create turnovers, especially at the blue lines, you are going to run into some trouble because they can score on the rush quite well. I'm trying to think of a time where they got an odd man or a breakaway, a clear breakaway, and every time I can think of, they scored on it. So right off the bat, that's you're in trouble then. Going into the off season that we're kind of going on at the same time, but now really kicking up a notch. We've had a few trades so far this off season, and one of the big ones to me was Pittsburgh moving on from Patrick Hornqvist, and I think justifiably he's a bit upset with it. He's waived his no trade clause so that he does go to Florida in exchange for Mike Matheson and Colton Sevier. And, if I'm Patrick Hornqvist, I am actually quite excited about the opportunity to go play for Florida. They do have a good young core. They've got solid defensemen who, Aaron Ekblad is a monster back there on defense, and whoever you have behind him gets to play a little bit more freely because of how good he is and how many minutes he eats up. And with Hornqvist going up and helping solidify the forward group, giving them some leadership there, some very welcome experience, I think that's going to be a really good fit. It does free up some cap for Pittsburgh to maybe go out and do a few more things that they've maybe lacked in the past couple of seasons. But it also, it's never really been Pittsburgh's MO in the Sidney Crosby era to go out and spend a ton of cap on a free agent to bring him in or to bring someone in for him. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. They can use it on some of their restricted free agents as well. Signing guys a little bit longer term, just shoring up their core a bit more too. So it's a big move on both sides. I do like it for both teams, which, in my opinion, if you're going to make a trade, it probably should benefit both teams, or at least maybe not benefit either team. Another big trade, big news was Eric Staal being moved from Minnesota to Buffalo for Marcus Johansson. Again, it's a bit of a culture change going on in Minnesota right now. I'm a big fan of everything that Bill Guerin's been doing. He allowed his group to kind of stay together this off season or this season, and just before the break there with the trade deadline, he kept things together, and now he's made decisions to be able to move on from Mikko Koivu, a stalwart of that team for years. Now moving on from Eric Staal and bringing in a guy like Marcus Johansson, who plays a completely different style than what Staal does. He will be able to mix things up with some more speed, whereas Staal has a bit more of the power game and plays a lot of the gritty areas where he's able to score in front and use his reach and his size to his advantage. So I do think it's a play for Minnesota to bring in a little bit more speed. I do think it's a play for Buffalo, whereas they're trying to bring in more experience, some more guys who can help, especially with the culture of the team. Try to get them out of the mindset of being okay with losing a game, where you want those veterans in there to fire them up a little bit more. Stahl's been a captain many years in this league. I think he'll be able to help Jack Eichel lead that team in the future. And another interesting trade to me was Montreal trading a 2023 and 7th for Jake Allen from the St. Louis Blues. Number one, it was interesting to me that St. Louis is moving on from Jake Allen, as he was the guy that came in to replace Jordan Binnington during the playoffs, and did in fact play quite well against Vancouver. And clearly they're saying that they're behind Jordan Binnington, that he's going to be the guy in the future, and his contract proves that too. But moving on from him is definitely an interesting move for me, where I've honestly thought Allen was the better goaltender, aside from when Binnington was hot and led them into the Stanley Cup last year. Montreal going out and getting a veteran backup for Carey Price is exponentially huge. Price being able to maybe take 10 more games off in a season where he can stay fresh, where he can stay healthy, that is huge, and I think is a big reason why this deal was done. It is interesting that they have a ton of cap room tied up in goalies, whereas a lot of teams are going away from that, and some of them even going away from paying a starter. It is definitely interesting to see that. Bringing another Staal onto the board, the Rangers are trading Mark Staal and a second-round pick next year to Detroit for future considerations. Clearly, this is a salary cap move, just trying to basically get Staal off the books and save some room for maybe a free agent ad, or quite possibly just paying their younger guys. which is what I think is the biggest move for them. They do have a young core that is really started to play well and is quite cohesive as well. Mark Stahl's kind of been their, let's say, sixth defenseman as of late. They do have some young defensemen that have really stepped up and played big minutes for them too. So I do like that move for the Rangers as well. And Steve Yzerman has, honestly, as proven by the Lightning winning the Cup this year, has really figured out a good way to use his salary cap to his advantage and find ways to add more picks, which, again, with the way he's built the Lightning and now starting to build the Red Wings, more players for him, more pieces to pick in the draft. I think that can be a scary thing for a lot of teams. Maybe not next year, but definitely in the future. And Chicago trading Dylan Sikura to Vegas for Brendan Peary. And it seems like every single offseason we see Chicago making a trade for a player that they have previously traded away for salary cap reasons. And I think there's something to be said for familiarity. I think there's something to be said for fresh starts, even if it is on a city that you know, with a lot of the same staff that you know, with a lot of the same players that you know. Chicago's core group is definitely starting to change. Taves and Kane and Seabrook and Keith and Crawford, and they're all getting quite a bit older. But at the same point, you're bringing in some young guys that have really helped them as well. I do think that they are a few pieces away. I think they can definitely use a defenseman still, but I do know that Peary's going to get a chance to play with them, and he's proven that when he gets a chance to play, he can put up some points. Going into a little bit of, I don't want to say somber news, but at the same point, when you're buying out players, it's mixed emotions. Bobby Ryan being bought out in Ottawa, especially after the year he's had where he's done a tremendous amount of personal growth and, even came back and won the King Clancy Award. Showed tremendous perseverance and dedication to the game. One of the best moments of the entire season, in my mind, which seems like ages ago at this point, but when he came back in his first home game and had a hat trick against Vancouver, and the crowd was behind him, and yes, there was a crowd at that point, but it was really incredible to watch that moment. And even myself as a Canucks fan, I was sitting there pulling for him the whole game as well. And really a shame to be moving on from Ottawa. Perhaps they don't feel he's playing to the contract that he was signed to. And that's all well and good. Ottawa has a ton of cap room at the same point, so that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. They're going to need to spend money at this point to get to the floor, like the cap floor. So that's really strange to me, unless there was some disagreement behind the scenes with Ryan and management or coaching staff, which, if it is behind the scenes, then they handled it quite well in the first place. So I don't know. It's something that I won't be able to quite put my finger on. At the same point, I think he's going to be able to go somewhere this year and contribute. And maybe it's going to be a smaller contract for sure, shorter term. Go out there and prove that you're worth it. And I really think that he can go to a team that is a couple of pieces away and really help them. Really provide some depth scoring. And I think that'll be a big signing for someone. Maybe not talked about right away, but later on in the season. And another huge one to me is the New York Rangers buying out goaltender Henrik Lundqvist. And to me, if you talk about the Rangers in the past 15 years, you think of Henrik Lundqvist. Number one, right off the bat, he's the first guy that comes to mind. And he's had some big years for them. He's helped carry them through a couple of really bad seasons as well. I do believe he won the Vezina in 2011 and 2012. So again, just a big presence that is going to be leaving that team. And this one, I definitely understand. You have two goaltenders that are coming up behind him that are younger, are playing well, and are playing better, quite frankly. But at the same point, it's again bittersweet to see him moving on from that franchise. I don't know if he's going to try and play somewhere else next season. He definitely doesn't need to, as far as status or contract wise. But at the same point, if he loves the game, it'll be interesting to see him play somewhere else. To me, it would be as strange as seeing Ray Bourque not in a Bruins uniform. Jerome McGinley not in a Calgary Flames uniform. It would be strange to me. And just going over some of his numbers here, like in that 2011-2012 season where his goals against average was 1.97 in 62 games played. And just constantly you see his saves in a season, over 1,600 in a season, a couple of times over 1,800, one time over 1,900 saves in one single season. His lowest save percentage in his career was this past season, and it was still above 900, which was 0.901. One of his best would have been 929 again in that 2011-2012 season. Just again, you start thinking of the New York Rangers and the iconic players that they've had, goaltenders especially Mike Richter, Henrik Lundqvist, and you start thinking about defenseman Brian Leetch comes to mind, Mark Messier, the forward, Gretzky, for obviously the tail end of his career, and even Yager, different things. Iconic players, iconic names, and seeing another one move on from them is going to be a little bittersweet, but it is, I believe, the right timing for it. It makes a lot more sense to me than the Bobby Ryan buyout. And again, it's going to be interesting to see how the Rangers use some of that cap room to, again, either pay some of their own younger guys or maybe bring in a veteran to help out. Well, thank you guys again so much for joining me. If you have any questions or comments, or if you want to correct me on a stat maybe that I messed up, please don't be afraid to write in the comments. And again, thank you so much for watching these videos. Please like and subscribe to the videos. And again, I'll see you guys soon. Love you guys.